Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session. My name is Cindy Haight, and I'm going to be your host today. We have Sabrina Ippolito today as your speaker and subject matter expert. Today, we're going to be discussing the quality manual and context of the organization. That's a little bit about us. I work for SGS as an inside sales representative. I've been with the company about 2.5 years. I assist companies to become certified with core ISO standards. We offer second party audits, and I also represent SGS Academy, which is our training division. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, although I don't look like that's possible. But it's really great to be here. I look forward to hosting this session today. And I'd like to introduce you to Sabrina Ippolito. She is your speaker today. She is a classically trained biochemist and certified lead auditor. She ensures organizations maintain compliance in a realm of different industries, certifications, and standards spanning pharmaceutical, cosmetics, and general manufacturing. She has directed, overseen, and improved several quality systems to reduce deficiencies and increase the profit flow. She's affiliated with the Professional Order of Chemists of Quebec and the American Society for Quality. On this slide, you can see some data about SGS. We are rapidly approaching our 150th year in business, which is quite an amazing achievement. SGS actually started in grain inspection in the marine inspection industry back in the day, and now we are the #1 leader in the TIC industry. That's testing, inspection, and certification or verification services. We employ nearly 100,000 people across 2,600 global offices and labs, and we have 7 focus areas of service. So the SGS difference, a little bit more about us. As I mentioned, we're a large global organization, so we have a great supportive network that enables us to support clients with a larger scope or global reach. We have a very high level quality of service. We come in and do audits against your quality system and expect high quality of you guys, and we expect the same of ourselves and hold ourselves to that same quality standard. We have the industry expertise. When we send an auditor to audit your organization, that person has years of experience in the industry, so they're coming in with good knowledge to share with your company. SGS is on the forefront of digital innovation. We have our client portal, we have our websites, we have our live webinars like this one today, we have our YouTube channel, and we also have a very high focus on cybersecurity and information security, knowing that, we really do protect our clients' information and data. We also have a very defined corporate sustainability initiative. SGS is looking to go carbon neutral by, I think, the year 2050. And you can download and read all about our sustainability efforts at our website anytime. Sabrina and I work for the Business Assurance Division here at SGS. And these are the services that we can offer. We of course offer the assessment, auditing, and certification services, which is what we're going to be talking about today, your quality manual and context of your organization. We also offer training through SGS Academy. We're going to touch on that briefly toward the end of the session. We offer supply chain risk management assurance through a product that we offer called Seymour. It's a supply chain software program. If you have any interest in that, please drop a line in the Q&A and I'll follow up with you. We offer sustainability assurance services. So we offer everything from training to a one-on-one coaching session with executives, all the way through helping you map out your sustainability journey. We offer business consulting services through our partners at MainPoint, and also are offering the whole range of medical device regulatory compliance services, including MDR. If anybody is looking to bring your medical device to the EU market, please drop me a Q&A and I'll follow up with you separately. Just a couple of things. We're going to be opening some polls throughout the session today. Please reply to the poll. You can click right on your screen to submit your response. We will drop a survey at the end of the session today. Please reply to our survey. We appreciate your input. It helps us determine ways to improve our webinars and make them better for everyone. And you will receive a link to watch this recorded session probably early next week. So thank you guys for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Sabrina. Please do enter your Q&A. We will get to questions as we can. And if we don't get to your question, we'll be sure to follow up with you individually via email. Thanks so much. Have a great session, everyone.
Hi, everyone, and thank you very much, Cindy, for that warm welcome. And I welcome you all today on our wonderful webinar that we have set off for you. And specifically today, the topics are the quality manual and context of the organization. So I'll take you through a very brief introduction for some of you who are thinking, or you're on the fence wondering if ISO 9001 is a product or certification that you think your organization could benefit from. So we will go ahead with the quality manual section of the webinar today. So what is ISO 9001? Well, the standard ISO 9001 is an international standard, and it does specify requirements for a QMS. Organizations typically use this standard to demonstrate their ability to consistently provide products and services that meet their customer and regulatory requirements. This standard is best known worldwide. It is the basic standard used to optimize an organization's activities, so rendering it more efficient and effective, if you will. More than 1 million organizations are ISO 9001 certified in over a staggering 175 countries worldwide. So as a quality management professional, you know all too well that our world is in constant flux with ever increasing customer expectations, a highly dynamic regulatory environment, and supply chains that are more disrupted than ever before. Quality is under pressure on all sides. At the same time, the legal, financial, and brand reputation consequences for poor quality are greater than ever before, and in fact, existential to an organization in some cases. So now, more than ever before, quality matters in organizations of all sizes around the world. So here's your first poll question of the day. Do you have a QMS, a quality management system, already implemented within your organization? I like starting off with this poll question because it's going to give me an idea on how much detail to give you as we're going through the rest of the slides. So I'll wait for some of you to start documenting. We're at 5%. Oh, yay. Wait for a little bit longer. 50. See if we can get to 60%. Okay, good. Yes, I have a QMS implemented within the organization, and we got a 9.7. No, you do not. Okay. Well, I'm hoping for you 10%, roughly 10% of you that do not have a QMS implemented. I'm hoping that by the end of this webinar, I can convince you on the benefits of actually having a QMS in place. And there are numerous benefits. So implementing and or maintaining a QMS can be a strategic move that improves quality, drives overall business performance, fosters customer trust, and builds a foundation for sustainable growth. In some cases, it even helps organizations scale up. Some of the numerous benefits include an improved product quality, and it's not always product quality, but sometimes it's also service quality. So improving the quality of the services that you are providing your clients. Enhanced efficiency and productivity. Ensuring you are maintaining regulatory compliance, increasing your customer satisfaction, increasing continuous improvement and the efficiency of continuous improvement, managing risk and taking a more proactive approach in managing risk, your employee engagement and morale. So we want to be able to increase employee engagement and their morale. Market reputation and competitive advantage, operational consistency. It has tremendous cost savings in the long run. And you have now a data-driven decision-making tool, which is, in my opinion, especially being a purist in data, in my opinion, it's for me, it's the main thing. It's knowing that when I'm taking decisions, I have data that supports and justifies the decisions that I'm making. I think it's worthwhile to go over the evolution of an ISO 9001 certification. So originally, back in the day, we're looking at a system that was very prescriptive. So the early versions, 1987 and 1994 specifically, were more prescriptive with detailed requirements for documented procedures. The later versions, so the 2000 and the 2008 versions of the QMS, they introduced more flexibility, but maintained the need for specific documented procedures. So still in 2000 and 2008, yes, there was some flexibility. However, there was still an expectation to have documented procedures in place. The 2015 version took a more flexible approach, though. This allowed organizations to decide for themselves and tailor their documentation to suit their own unique contexts and needs better. The focus, so initial versions focused on the standardization through documentation. The 2000, 2008 versions, they emphasized a process-based approach and continuous improvement. So what do we mean when we're talking about process-based approach? Well, instead of saying that, yes, you meet clause 4.1 or you meet clause 5.3 or whatever have you, they're looking at the entire process of the supply chain from start to finish. The 2015 version emphasized risk-based thinking and flexibility, focusing on performance and outcomes rather than strict documentation. So, are organizations required to keep a quality manual? What do you think? I'm looking forward to this answer. Let's see if we can get a few more. Okay. Oh, wow. We got 50-50 split. Okay, so you would be surprised, but the earlier versions, 87, 94, 2000, and 2008, they were explicitly required. In the 2015 version of the standard, they're not explicitly required. So you can decide, you can either have them, you can either implement a quality manual, or you can decide not to have a quality manual. Nobody can say, well, because you do not have a quality manual, then you are going to have a non-conformance. that will not happen. So the 2015, so again, just to be clear, the 2015 version of the standard does not require you to have implemented a quality manual. However, having a quality manual in some cases, and in this particular case, I'm for having one because it does help us tie in the loose ends and give a home to certain documentation that needs to be required. Example, like the scope, for instance. I find that including the scope in a quality manual or including certain documents that we would probably call them, let's say, as policies, while putting and consolidating everything in one document, I think it's something that might be beneficial for you, so you know where that one document is, and you can just point to different areas or sections in that document. So for this reason and this reason alone, having a quality manual might actually be beneficial for you, but no, it is not a requirement. So let's say I convinced you that you are going to have a quality manual. So what are some of the things that we can put in a quality manual? What you have over here, so basically the headings that we're going to go through in the next couple of slides, you can use that as the sections. And the orange bullet points could be your subsections. So what I would normally include in a quality manual is an introduction. So this would be like, what is the purpose of my quality manual? So basically it's to outline maybe the processes or a high level outline of all of the processes that exist and how you maintain your quality management system and who your key players are. So like I mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, I would probably include in here the scope of the quality management system. And honestly, you really don't have to look very far. Just take your certificate if you are already certified with, let's say, SGS. Take your ISO 9001 certificate and look at the scope that is written on that certificate, and verbatim, word for word, the way it's written in the certificate is the way you would also document it in your manual. This over here is also the right place for you to document your non-applicabilities to the standard. So as an example, let's say you're taking non-applicability to design and development section 8.3. This is also where you would include, let's say, a little subsection to in the introduction or under scope. And you would say that your non-applicabilities are sections 8.3. But don't forget, you must justify why it's non-applicable. So maybe in this case, it's because you're getting your designs or your drawings from your client and you're manufacturing as is. In some cases where, let's say, if you are a service provider, maybe you're providing internal audits, for instance, then in this case, well, the design and the development aspect does not really apply to you. Neither would, let's say, calibration, because you're maybe not calibrating for your clients. Also, this is a great section for you to talk about your context of the organization, your COTO. So what is that exactly? Well, we're going to discuss this into further detail just later on in the webinar today. But essentially, your context of the organization is a brief description of who you are as a company, what is it that you do, how large of a company are you, what are the different technologies, if let's say you're in manufacturing, where are you located, are you just located in, are you just one site, or are you multiple sites across a nation, or multiple sites worldwide? So it kind of gives someone who is interested in either purchasing a product or a service from you, it kind of gives them the visibility in terms of location and so on and so forth. This is also, so in your quality manual is also where you would document your quality policy. Now remember, the quality policy does not have to be very convoluted. It's generally speaking a couple of lines, maybe a paragraph or so. And it's basically what's going to feed your quality objectives. So from your quality policy, which is your commitment to quality, you are going to get your quality objectives. Your quality objectives are basically your key performance indicators, but that are related to quality. And remember, You want to ensure that they are quantifiable. That means that you can put some sort of a number on them. Qualitative quality objectives are not an added benefit, or stipulating or suggesting that ensuring that you maintain certification is not necessarily a quality objective. You want it to be quantifiable. Something that is quantifiable, for instance, is decreasing the number of nonconformances, or ensuring on-time delivery is at least 90%, and make sure that they're actually achievable. Okay. Another side note, when it does come to quality objectives, the standard does not explicitly tell you how many quality objectives you need to have. So feel free to have as many or as few as you like, as long as it's a number that makes sense and can be controlled within the organization. Within your quality manual, so most people tend to think, okay, well, if I have to write a quality manual, my quality manual is going to be, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 pages long. What I normally tell people, and especially the clients I work with, is that if you are wanting a very wordy document and you feel like this is turning out to be a dissertation, we're not looking, like, even as an auditor, we're not looking for anything complex. We're looking to see that you have a system in place and that you're meeting the system requirements, that you're meeting your system requirements. Obviously, within the confinements and the bounds of the standard, yes. But at the end of the day, you decide on what's going into your quality manual. So this is also a great place if you do decide that you do want to keep a quality manual in place. You might decide to have, a picture diagram, like what I've documented over here under the quality documentation structure. It doesn't need to be wordy. You can show it with pictures. So for instance, you might decide, well, we have a manual, you might have policies, or you may decide that there's no added benefit to have a policy, but I do want to have procedures as an example. I'm not going to call them processes, I'm going to call them procedures. And then you might decide that, hey, you know what? We've got procedures and we've got work instructions and we have forms and we have logs. And finally, we have our records. So that little proverbial saying of a picture's worth 1,000 words, sometimes you can get exactly what it is that you want out of a section that would have taken you maybe 1,000 words to put together just by showing a picture. And that is allowed. Also, if you're looking to explain maybe your continuous improvement or how you show and indicate continuous improvement within your organization, you can also do this through showing a diagram. And I've given you two possible examples on the far right. So on the one on the top, the picture on the top, and the picture on the bottom. But again, what I'm showing you here today is more to get you to think about it. This does not mean that this is what an auditor is going to want to see. Remember, your quality system is your quality system, and you decide what makes up your quality system. Obviously, ensuring that you're still meeting the minimum requirements of the standard. For instance, you cannot say that, well, we've decided we're not going to do internal audits. No, internal audits are a requirement of the standard, as are management reviews. But what you're going to put into your document, that's up to you to decide. Organizational structure. This one's a biggie because this is always the document that tends to put people into hot water. In your quality manual, and even if it's a standalone document, which is fine, document the job functions, the job titles, who's the reporting structure, who is reporting into whom. Now, in here, one of the diagrams that I'm showing you here is you can do this like geographically, but you can also do this functionally. If you're one site, or maybe you're multiple sites throughout the organization, but it's only one or two sites or just one site that is ISO certified, then your quality manual will just be for that one site. And you can show that, yes, geographically we span these countries. However, our QMS is only for, let's say, this site, and therefore you might show the organizational chart at large, but only with job functions. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, as you know, people move in and out of companies, but can also move within the organization. The only time you should really be changing your organizational chart is when you have a change in reporting structure, not because someone left the company because they won the lottery or they went off to greener pastures, but more because there's a change in who's reporting into who, or what job functions reporting into what. So there might be a hierarchy change. If, for instance, you have people that are moving around and you have to update, you have to think about updating a quality manual or updating just the standalone organizational chart, you will run through the problem of, should somebody leave, are they, the person who's in charge of making the change on the org chart, are they necessarily going to remember that, oh, I need to update that document? And so again, think about these things, make it workable, make sure it works for you. But generally speaking, when you are putting something like this in place, look at what I have on the bottom, where you see the geographical and the functional organizational chart. It should really be just the department and or the job titles that are in there. Don't necessarily include the people. If they do, remember there is a small risk. Process overview. You might decide that you are going to show what are all of, like, a high level structure of all of the processes within the organization. So think of a process in terms of an activity. What are your activities? What is it that you do? You might have sales, and from sales you have purchasing. Purchasing will lead into receiving. Receiving leads into scheduling or warehousing, scheduling, production. Then you might have quality control checks, quality assurance. You have supporting departments like HR, maybe the lab, whatever have you. So think of all of your different processes. And what's fun with this is that you can actually then start streamlining. Well, if I look at the process, or if I look at the activity, if I look at the verb, what is it that triggers that process to start happening? So if we look at sales, for instance, it might be a lead, and the lead can come from an inside or an outside sales. You might have, let's say, an email that comes in, that's someone's requesting a product or someone's requesting a service from you. So when you are selling a product or a service, you will probably generate a quote, and that becomes the output to your sales, as an example. And then that output being, let's say, a quote, will maybe perhaps generate a PO. That PO, then you will look at, for instance, all of the products that you have, or the supplies that you have internally, and ask yourselves, well, do I have everything in place in order for me to start processing? If the answer is no, this is where procurement comes in and says, well, now we have to look at our process and purchase the things that are required in order for us to fulfill the needs, the wants, and the expectations of our clients. Documentation and record control. So what does this look like? Well, and this is, like I said, we can have procedures, we can have manuals, we have our logs or forms, our records. So you might decide, you might, put in a couple of sentences. How is it that you control your record management or your archiving process? If you already have a procedure, let's say you already have a procedure in place for documentation and record control, that's fine. Under this, in this case, under this heading, what you can say is refer to whatever procedure that is. And don't put versions. If you are working with versions, if your QMS is based on versions, do not put versions. Just put the ID, the identifying number of that process, and the procedure's name. That's it. You don't need more than that. Basically, your quality manual, you can even build it to be like a memory aid, in terms of, this is what we provide all of our newcomers so that they know how to navigate our QMS, our quality management system. Same thing with HR. HR, you can explain HR in terms of all of the activities that they do just with a diagram. They might be in charge of onboarding. They might be in charge of ensuring that people understand that you do have a quality management system in place, and describe to them, for instance, what is a quality policy, what are the quality objectives, the benefits of keeping a QMS in place, the consequences if we're not following, what the requirements are of the QMS. And when we're talking about consequences, it doesn't mean, oh, you'll get a notice in your file. It means that you will have an increase of nonconformances. You will have an increase of customer complaints. We start driving down productivity. This can obviously, create a loss of profit. And a loss of profit means that we're not reinvesting the profits into the company, because we have little profits to reinvest in the company. So it's important that, when we're also providing, let's say from an HR perspective, if it is HR that's giving the training within your organization, that we provide them the information, the know-how, that it's not just about having a quality system in place, but it's making people understand why this QMS exists, and truly the benefits of having a QMS in place, and the consequences of what can actually happen if we start to derail or we start doing what we feel like doing. Also, it's the right platform for us to encourage people and advise them that, we welcome change. We want change. It's important that we follow what's written on in the documentation. But if you have any suggestions for improvement, let us know, because if it's something that we can use, then we'll make the necessary changes within the quality management system. And now all of a sudden what you're doing is that you're saying, well, the QMS that you're putting in place does not just, belong to one person or to one department, but it really belongs to everybody, and everyone is everyone within the organization that makes up the QMS. Product realization, the same thing. I mean, just think of process flow. You might document, like, these are all of the different technologies that we have, or you might even document that these are all of the different type of SKUs that we have. And if you have an exuberant number of SKUs, you might just outline in terms of, the categories of products that you manufacture, and then just say, okay, well, we have another set document that outlines in specific detail all of the different type of products that we have, or the SKUs that are available for clients. Like I said, another thing I've seen companies use in the quality manual are hyperlinks, and they'll, like, a hyperlink belongs to a specific category that's being mentioned, or a subsection in the manual, but going on to, or just pressing on that hyperlink will bring you a lot more detail that you might be looking for if you're looking for something specific. But also it just makes it easier to read when you have a smaller number of pages, instead of just having a document that's convoluted with more information than you probably need in one sitting. Measurement, analysis, and improvement. This over here is a very important slide, because we can actually go back to the slide whenever we're looking at, well, what are the metrics that we could use as an organization if I want to ensure that I am on the right path, or ensuring that, my strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, and my threats, at least my weaknesses and my threats are being mitigated, or ensuring what are the metrics that are available for me if I'm trying to determine, am I on the right path in terms of the objectives that we're trying to meet. And we can use internal audits to help us reach our goals, non-conformance management, and even our corrective actions to help us determine, do we have a healthy QMS? This is generally, in the quality manual, is where I like to document what are the metrics, or what are the tools that are available for me or for my clients in helping us determine the health of the QMS. Customer satisfaction, why not put a picture? This is what we look at when we're looking at customer satisfaction. And in fact, remember, this says customer satisfaction, not customer dissatisfaction. So when we're looking at customer satisfaction, if you happen to have any love letters that you get from any one of your clients, I suggest that you keep them. But it's important that you let everyone who has, anyone who can communicate with external providers, that you let them know. Make sure you keep your love letters. Make sure you keep all of the hey, thank you very much for helping me out on a whim or for getting this product delivered to me right away. So customer satisfaction, it helps us determine what is it that we're doing really, really well. And why is this important? Because then what we can say is, well, hey, you know what? Let's focus instead on this area where we tend to be doing really well as per our customers. So this is a way of justifying that you have certain departments that are performing very well, but let's focus our resources on areas that we're struggling a bit about or a little bit more on. And these themselves can become a venue for continuous improvement within the company as well. So it's also being able to strategically define or place your support network in areas where you need it most. In your quality manual, you can also include management responsibilities. So maybe you might want to include in here leadership's commitment to the quality management system. You might want to include in there product identification and traceability. You might have a procedure for product identification and traceability. Maybe you are an organization that has a recall procedure in place. In this case, you might reference the recall procedure or the mock recall or your traceability procedure, however it is that you call it. You might also include in here the supplier and external provider management. So when we're thinking about, for instance, our suppliers, remember, suppliers, they supply us both for product and the service. So what is your process for qualifying suppliers? What is your process for evaluating your suppliers? Not all suppliers need to be evaluated. And if that's your case, determine how you determine which suppliers are evaluated. So if you don't have a procedure in place because you've decided that this is not necessarily something I need to have documented as an example, I don't need to have a procedure in place to discuss leadership and commitment to the QMS, then put it in the quality manual. It's a good place for you to put it. And there, this is where you might say, well, you know what, maybe a paragraph or, you know, like 6, 7, 8 lines, or maybe even 2 lines, if you can be succinct enough, that's all you need whenever you're whenever you're wanting to discuss, let's say, leadership and commitment, or, you know, documenting, this is how we qualify our suppliers. This is how we evaluate or monitor our suppliers. And sometimes we think it's like, oh my goodness, we need to have a 10, 15-page document. No, you don't. You really don't. What you're required to do is, if you're creating a process, as an example, is indicate whose responsibility is it to carry out X verb, example, procurement or purchasing. What frequency or when is that done? What is the documentation that needs to be filled? And is there anything else that helps to monitor that? So maybe in your organization, you can say, well, you know, if we're looking at purchasing, for instance, purchasing can only be done up to $1,000, but more than $1,000, it has to be approved by upper management. If that's your reality, make sure you're documenting it and make sure you're doing exactly what you're saying you're supposed to be doing. Legal and regulatory requirements. So your quality manual is actually the great place for you to put down and for you to itemize what are the legal requirements that you're expected to follow. So this is both on, let's say, from an environmental perspective, if you live in a city or in a borough where you have to maybe analyze or test the effluent, and this is a requirement of the borough that you're in, then you'll put down the normative and the normative references there. If you are using 9001 as a foundation, but then you like the program and you've decided to add on, so you might have some regulatory requirements that you still need to fulfill. You might even have, you know, a specific requirement that you are fulfilling, and you want to still keep your 9001. So you might be an organization that has multiple certificates in place. Then you'll also include that within your QM, within your quality manual. And again, this does not have to be in a paragraph format. You can just, you know, bullet points, like we meet the requirement of, as an example, 21 CFR parts 210 and 211, ISO 14001, ISO 22716, 2007. You determine if you are required to meet any regulatory requirements or you are meeting any additional certification requirements, and you can also include them in your quality manual. It's the right place for you to put them. Risk management. Some organizations have a process for risk, other organizations do not have a process for risk. But when it comes to risk management, a picture like this, well, we identify the risk, we analyze the risk, we act upon the risk, we monitor to see if we're actually mitigating the risk, and we have control processes in place to ensure that our risk management is not going to go haywire. Like I said, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we can rely on pictures to get our point across. And again, what is it that you're looking for? You're really looking for an alignment to ensure that everybody is on the same page. I really like this picture, this little diagram, when it comes to communication. And the reason for it is because I use my Venn diagrams. I look at internal communication and how is it that I communicate information internally. I look at external communication and how is it that we communicate information with our external interested parties. And then wherever I have my commonalities, that's the area in the black. So that's the section that they both have in common. This is also a great place for you to determine and for you to acknowledge and speak about organizational knowledge. So what does that mean? These are your processes for managing and utilizing organizational knowledge. What are your methods for capturing and sharing knowledge? So do you attend webinars? And then once you get all of this good information, you disseminate the information internally. Do you go to conferences, gather as much information as you possibly can, and then disseminate the information internally? So how do you stay current? This is one of my favorite slides on continuous improvement. And the best way that I like to talk about continuous improvement is with the PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. So what are your methods internally for identifying improvement opportunities, for innovation and development strategies? Is this embedded in your corrective action? Is this embedded in the follow-ups throughout the corrective action? So basically, when we're talking about a quality manual, remember, you want to ensure that it is super lean. You'll notice that over here, I have certain areas that are bolded and other areas that are not in bold. The bolded areas, this is if you've decided to, let's say, give it a bit more context or give it some more fluff. You might decide to include a section on who your interested parties are, and you can itemize this, put this on a table, and that's perfectly fine. Also, some of you might decide, well, we'd like to have a section of amendment record or revision history. So these are areas and sections that you may want to include in addition within your quality manual. So this brings us to our next this brings us to context of the organization, but it does bring me to our next poll question. So has your organization begun addressing or analyzing climate change? Example, carbon footprint. All right. Let's see if we could get a couple more respondees. Okay, good. All right. So for those of you, okay, so for those of you who have not yet started to address climate change or or for those of you who are not aware of the new edition, or for those of you who have no idea that there was an amendment to the standard, there was in fact an amendment to the standard. We are expected, so, and when I say we, I'm talking about from an auditor's perspective, we are expected to document on our reports that you've thought about it and what it is that you're doing, or what it is that what is it that your organization is implementing, or what is the strategy for climate change. Now, it would be interesting for you to think about this, and for you to, maybe if you already have a system that is a documented quality management system, it would make sense, absolutely, for you to also have that documented, because I mean, the way we see it is like, we've documented X, Y, Z. Well, why haven't you documented A and B? However, is it required? It's not required for it to be documented. So climate change is a new addition to the standard, and it's specifically addressed in sections 4.1 and 4.2. So when we're looking at understanding the context and its the organization and its context, what this means is, who are you as a company? So I had gone over this just a little bit. So who are you as an organization? How many people are you? Where do you span? Like, give me the meat and potatoes of you. Market yourselves. Who are you? How can you make me as your potential client meet my needs, wants, and expectations? This requires an analysis of your external environment as well, your market trends, regulatory landscape, economic conditions, and the analysis of the internal environment, such as your organizational culture, your capabilities, and your resources. So as it relates to climate change, you want to identify and understand the internal and external issues relevant to your organization, including environmental impacts and climate change. This can involve assessing how climate change affects your operations, supply chain, and stakeholders. You want to understand regulatory requirements that are related to environmental performance and climate change. Under section 4.2, we have understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. Now, the fun thing about this is section 4.1, 4.2 can all be addressed through just doing a very simple table. So over here we have, as an example, you are documenting all of your interested parties, both internal and external. When we're talking about internal interested parties, we're talking about our employees, we're talking about management, we're talking about leadership, maybe external stakeholders. When we're looking at our externals, we're looking at our clients, we're looking at our suppliers, our subcontractors, any regulatory bodies that we might work with. It's important. So if we look at the second column, it becomes important for us to list what are our interests, our concerns, our needs, and our expectations. In here is also a great place for us to think about and to address climate change. Our next column over, we can look at our potential strengths, weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. Earlier, we looked at control verification, our metrics, our tools that we can use. We can use CAP investigations. We can use management reviews. We can use internal audits. We can use customer complaints, as long as it's appropriate for that interested party. What's really good about this is that now we start to consolidate. So for those of you that are doing our strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, you can consolidate your weaknesses and your threats on your last column. Moving on over, we now have risks that we can look at that are process driven. So think of the high level structure that we've done, our sales, our procurement, receiving, shipping, producing, manufacturing, testing. What are all of the inputs? What are all of the outputs? This requires us to engage individuals that are working in those departments and ask them those questions. What are the issues? What are the risks? What are potential opportunities that we can go and address? And again, you consolidate all of the risks and you will form one table at the end of it all to determine what are those potential risks, or how do we define those risks. So before we move ahead, how does your organization analyze risks? Check all that apply. Ooh, sorry. Do you formalize your risk? Do you do an informal risk assessment, meaning it's just discussed with your pertinent stakeholders? A formal risk assessment is usually documented. Do you quantify risk, so using numbers only? How about qualification? Do you qualify risk, high, medium, low? Or do you use a hybrid method where you do quantitatively and qualitatively assessments of your risks? Let's see what we've got. Okay, good. I've seen many organizations use a formal risk assessment, and I've seen many organizations use quantifiable. High, medium, low, I mean, like I said, it's not prescriptive, right? The standard's not going to tell you that you have to do it a specific way. It's whatever works for your organization. Good. So earlier I spoke about consolidating all of these risks. So when you're consolidating all of your risks, eventually you need to analyze your risk. But how do you analyze your risk if you don't have necessarily a metric in which you can use? So what's important is that we determine, or that we at least create our boundaries. And I like my 5x5 matrix. But again, this is Sabrina's matrix. This is what I use. If you have a 3x3, or you prefer using qualitative versus quantitative, that's fine. Some people use a heat map as well, such as what I've shown you. I like very simple: green, yellow, and red. Some people might put in orange. That's okay too. It's important that you define your parameters. Once you've defined your parameters, you can then consolidate, put everything on one table, determine what is your probability, what is the impact based on your definitions, and then get an RPN. And based on your RPN, which is your risk priority number, you can then decide, are you going to move forward and open up a corrective action to address those risks? Or will you leave them at bay and say, this is not a risk that we're going to concern ourselves? Because remember, we can have a risk, like for instance, I live in Montreal. The risk of a tornado, yes, it's a risk for us. For more and more, we're starting to get warnings of tornadoes or whatnot. But it is not the degree of, let's say, areas around the world that are prone to Category 5 tornadoes. So for me, although it's a risk, I might have it somewhere in the green zone. So will I necessarily put in place processes or barricades, as an example, that are tornado proof? Probably not, because if my site's in Montreal, it might not necessarily be a requirement. It's still a risk, but not a high risk. Someone in an area where they are prone to tornadoes may think about it twice and say, well, how do I proof my organization so that I can reduce the amount of damage should we get hit with a severe storm, as an example? On to you, Cindy.
Thank you, Sabrina. So much great information. Everyone, thank you for attending and being here with us today. You can see, you can grab that QR code scan so you can pop right over to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of resources there for you. This session will be posted, webinars, live events, all kinds of things that you can search on your topic of interest. So I highly encourage you guys to visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, we do offer training through SGS Academy. So you can see some of our courses there. We have a modular course of study for ISO 9001. that starts with requirements, moves into internal auditor and lead auditor. Those are all in 1 week. And then we also do offer IRCA accredited lead auditor training. So thanks so much. There's our contact information. Sabrina, I have a couple of questions I'd like to share from our audience and get your input.
Sure.
Okay, great. So going back to if a quality manual is required, is that industry dependent? Do you have to have a quality manual if you're in the medical device industry or in the aerospace industry?
So I can't necessarily speak about medical device or aerospace because I haven't studied those manuals, and I'm not one of the certified auditors for those. But I know, for instance, if you're looking at, let's say, the pharmaceutical side, they'll ask for a site master file, and that sort of is that is a requirement, let's say, in pharma, and that kind of acts like a quality manual. So there are certain industries that make it required. I can't really speak in terms of medical device or aerospace, though.
Okay, thank you. And here's a comment question. In our quality manual, we list the sites covered by our QMS system in the scope. We have our recertification audit coming up, and we are going to be certifying a new site. Should we put the site into the quality manual before or after the audit once the site is actually certified?
So I've seen one client do it in a very interesting way. What they've done is that they've done like the documents in black, and they've put the site that has yet to be qualified or part of the site or part of the certification. They've graded out and put it in italics. And that was explained as such, saying, this is going to be part, like we're showing it to you, but this is going to be part of the quality manual when and if you certify us. And people have been actually trained to that, to say, look, we're putting it in the quality manual, expecting that it's going to be, that we're going to be certified, and we should be certified, but it's not in black, and it's not in, you know, the black font or in regular characters. So I've seen people be creative like that. And that's another thing. I know, I get it, it's quality, but be creative with it. So you are allowed to use it in gray and say, we're adding this, like it is part of the quality manual. However, it's grayed out because we're not sure if you're going to accept this or if we're going to pass the certification. So just in case, this is like this. That's a good question. That was really good.
Okay, here's another one. Going back to the organizational charts, if there's more than one site in the scope, should each site have their own org chart, or do we have a combined org chart?
That depends on the way that you're wanting to show the hierarchy within your company. But generally speaking, if you have one organizational chart is what we're looking for. Yeah, I mean, one organizational chart is probably best in my opinion. But again, it's your quality system. If you want to have two and you want to show two, or you want to show maybe one and show how everything just all blends into one organization, you can show that. And then if you want to show a separate one, just that's your site specific, where it can afford you to put more details in there, you can do that as well. They're both tolerated and they're both acceptable.
Awesome. Okay, here's a really interesting question. How do you audit a company that doesn't have a quality manual?
I audit their processes. So I generally, during the opening meeting, if there is one, especially if there's no processes, I like to have an idea in terms of what are your processes. Take me from start to finish. A sale or a request for product comes in. What are your processes? So get people to speak about what it is that they do, how it is that they do it. You yourself, like, reverse engineer this. Once you get an idea in terms of the activities that go on within a company, jot down, okay, what are the main processes that I see going on here? Maybe ask some questions. Do you do procurement, or is this being carried out from at another site if they're a multi-site? And then another thing that you can start doing is take them or have them give you the product flow while you're touring the facility. So don't just show like, okay, this is where people get dressed, and this is the lab, and this is where we have quarantine. actually have them take you through product flow of the receiving or of the shipping aspect. So, you know, manufacturing, if we're talking about manufacturing. If, however, you're talking about service provision, so an organization that provides a service, then have them break that down for you modularly. And like I said, when you do this process-based auditing, it's a lot easier to see the bigger picture, and it's a lot easier for you to determine the flow of the company. And then your job as an auditor is for you to at least is for you to know, like, if there is something that is non-conforming, well, what area or what section of the standard is non-conforming. Try to avoid doing clause-based audits, but it's definitely feasible without a quality manual.
Awesome. All right, guys, we are at the end of the hour, at the top of the hour. Thank you again for attending. Look for the survey. Please give us your feedback. It's very much appreciated. You will receive a link to this recorded session early next week. Everyone have a great weekend. Thanks, and we'll have more sessions throughout the year, so look forward to more sessions and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.